Oh my goodness, it's been too long. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bags and Boards podcast is back. This is number 78. I actually had to check YouTube, and it's been over a year, almost closer to 2 years since we've released a podcast.
Sure.
But we're in a new studio, and we've been planning on bringing this back. It's going to be a little different, but I did want to hit you with something, Russ, because there's been talk about you completely ending, putting a kibosh to ordering new comics for your LCS. So I think that's what we're going to start today. So we have an LCS owner you've been doing. How long have you been an LCS owner?
Oh, we opened in June of 2012. So I have had the shop this month right now, 13 years.
Holy smokes.
So yes, brick and mortar for 13 years.
All right, well, reminder, this is going to be available audio only for anyone who doesn't want to watch us on SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes. Since we have had like this small hiatus, there's been like platforms that have completely shut down that we used to upload on. So I had to think twice about that.
What's available?
So
yeah.
How long since you've been a shop that you've been offering new comics? Because I remember when we first talked about you starting a shop, we almost did it together. And one of the things you said specifically was, we're not going to offer new comics.
I didn't want to.
Well, why
not in the
didn't you
beginning.
want to in the beginning? And then what led you to do it? And then where are we now?
I think originally the idea was that I just wanted to sell on eBay and I just wanted to have a storefront to be able to bring collections in. That was the idea. As I got a little bit farther along in the thought process, because, you know, from inception to actually the idea becomes a store.
Like, how many times do customers come in and go, hey, do you have the new Batman?
Oh, no.
You
That
know,
never happened.
That wasn't it?
That never happened.
Oh, then what was the trigger?
There's so much iteration because we had talked about opening a store. And it took 6 to 9 months before it really was like, oh, we're going to open a store. I rented a location. I have a place. And along the way, I talked to other people I knew. I talked to John Hill, who had a shop. I talked to a couple other people I knew that owned shops in town and kind of talked about, you know, the pitfalls to look for and what to do and what not to do. John recommended we sell Magic cards. I had another guy who was like, you should do tabletop games. Someone else said you should do Warhammer 40K. And we did all of those at some point in time.
I actually bought you out of all your Warhammer at
You
one
did?
point because
Yeah.
it just didn't go well.
No. We didn't have enough players. But the new comics was something that I started looking into it. I realized how much it would be to get into doing new comics every single week. It didn't seem like it was that much money. And I found basically 2 business partners who would be doing comics with me. And in the very, very beginning, I had Jim and Terry. And Jim used to run an app that helped sell comic books, and they're defunct now, doesn't matter anymore. But he would buy $100 worth of comics every month. And my buddy Terry, he was like, well, if you give me a good discount, I'll buy a bunch. And Terry would be one of those whales that would just come in and buy $150, $200 worth of stuff every month. So basically, those 2 guys were pretty close to covering my minimum. I didn't have to go out of pocket for a whole lot, so I was willing to take the risk to just buy 30, 40 comics, put them on the wall.
All right. So, I mean, this is for anyone who doesn't realize how this works, is to have an account with one of these distributors, you have to do a minimum to not just like maintain your account, but you get more discounts the more you order. So if you're not ordering a certain amount, you essentially might as well just be joining someone else's pull list, you know, to make it worth it.
Pretty much that's it. The intro discount that you get, sorry guys, I'm going to tell the secret. The intro discount that you get is like a 30 to 35% discount on most books until you order over a certain amount. So there's actually a break-even point. If you're ordering, you know, $500 to $1,000 worth of comic books a month, you're only getting like a 30% discount. Plus, they don't tell you that you are also going to pay for shipping on top of that. So the reality is you're actually only making about 20% on any book, because even if you're getting a 30 to 35% discount, you're still paying for the book to get to you.
Well, we had a video. One of our earliest videos was titled something along the lines of why comic shops fail, why they close. So if you can believe it, it's been 7 years since we made that video. You know, we've been doing this YouTube stuff for quite a long time. Hit the subscribe button. And back then, some of the things that you had mentioned that were the big pitfalls were over ordering, underselling, people not picking up their comics. So you're kind of holding the bill while the next bill comes in 7 days. And then you're kind of playing catch up, deciding who do you cut off and who do you hold. Oh, this is a really good customer, so I'm gonna hold their last week's because I know they're gonna pay. But then sometimes those people are 3, 4, 5 weeks late, or they just ghost you altogether. Has it gotten any easier? Has it gotten any better? I mean, it's been 7 years, man.
No, absolutely not any easier. You get more used to it. You figure out how to mitigate these problems. Because in the very beginning, I wasn't doing what some other shops do. Shout out Midtown, where they just buy 1,000 copies and hope that something sells. And a place like Midtown, yeah, they can absolutely absorb that.
They support a lot of different places.
Very, very much so. And nothing against Midtown. They are massive.
They're awesome.
But it's the type of thing where you would go into the shop and you know that they will have whatever you want on the wall because they will have bought that many copies of it. But a smaller shop, you really can't do that. So even if you're like stretching the minimum, you buy 25 copies of a thing and then sell 4 off the wall, you're losing money on those other 21 copies. So I tried to mitigate that as much as possible by buying very few comics. But I ended up having a lot of people that would come in, they wouldn't have a pull box, they wouldn't have like a regular list, but they also would come in every single week trying to, well, why don't you have this one? Well, why don't you have this one? Well, because I didn't order that, because I had to order it 2 months ago to be able to get it on the shelf. So I started ordering more and I started doing more box.
Kind of like a snowball effect.
And it got bigger. And
well, it's probably a nice feeling too. Like you're getting books that your community in Mill Creek want. So it's nice to have the new Superman and the new Spider-Man always, I'm sure.
Sure. And it was nice. But when you have people that know what they want, but they don't know what they want until the day it comes out, it's really, really difficult to try and plan that. You just can't really do it. So we had more people who would open a box and get the thing, and here it is. And that was okay because I had a very complicated spreadsheet and I had a system where everything was written and things on the paper, and I still missed stuff. And customers still were like, I told you I ordered that. And I'm like, I don't have any record of you ordering that. So that's always frustrating. So
well, a lot of this seemingly was getting better throughout the years. And I remember when Diamond announced the Previews Pull Box, which there's going to be people here, there's a lot of new comic collectors and fans that may not realize that there was a point in time in the last 7 years, it had to have been 5 years ago, right? Right around 4 or 5 years ago.
I think it was actually Emerald City 2019. So it would have been, Emerald City 2019. I was at the Diamond Breakfast and I was sitting at the table with a bunch of other local shop owners. And Diamond announced that Previews Pull Box was happening.
So it literally took until 2019 for the largest distributor to have a website where a customer can go in and type in Batman and click a button and subscribe to Batman. Right. And then the shop would just have that as an order. And then things were starting to get fulfilled. And it was actually a pretty damn cool thing. Simultaneously a little frustrating because it's like, how did it take this long for something like that? I mean, prior to Pullbox, you're having to do what you just described. I told you I wanted that book, and if you didn't write it down or if you forget to email, and then you got to go do your homework and figure out the SKU and add it to a spreadsheet and make sure your orders are put in. And again, with such small margins, this is like such a headache that it makes sense why a lot of stores don't use their new comics as their leader to stay in business. You know, it's, if anything, it's a cost leader to, you know, serve the community. Well, it only lasted for a few years, right? Like it was like 2 years that Previous Pullbox was around, because by the time
No.
It was like a year and a half.
Still
right?
around.
It's still, well, Diamond is on its way out.
Previous Pullbox is absolutely still around.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Back it up. You're right. Previews is still around.
Yeah.
It's just the publishers that were orderable through Previews aren't around anymore.
Well, some of them aren't. And as of right this second, there are many, many publishers that you cannot order. You cannot order it through Previews Pullbox. Once the pandemic happened,
was it DC that started this?
DC left, went to Lunar.
How did that impact you? Because
we picked up a huge number of boxes because rest in peace, Comic Dungeon and Corner Comics. Those were two massive shops. I mean, I remember, you bought stuff at Corner all the time. That was like your shop when you lived in Woodinville. I remember going out of the Comic Dungeon for years and years and years. It was like you went to Xanadu in the Comic Dungeon when you were in the U District. When pandemic happened and it affected a lot of shops, those shops went out of business. I bought all of their inventory, and we extended the offer to be able to pick up all of their box customers. And some of their box customers moved elsewhere, and we ended up picking up quite a few box customers. And prior to that, we had actually started the Patreon, where we would be charging the Patreon $10 a month for people to be able to have a box. It was just a subscription thing, and it was applied towards their shipping. And we had 100 customers who were outside of our state, because we had to be shipping. So we turned into a massive mail order thing. We had over 200 customers locally. So we were dealing with 350 box customers, and we were ordering a ton of titles, over 100 copies on Amazing Spider-Man. We were ordering over 80 copies on Batman. And I mean, for a relatively small physical store, we had a lot of box customers. We had a lot of people that were buying things. But once Lunar left, immediately we noticed that people who wanted Batman couldn't figure out how to order it, even though we were like, no, we can get it for you, just tell us. But our numbers from Batman dipped drastically.
What kind of dip? I mean, you're over 100 orders for a single comic. Lunar steps in. There's no like system that customers can use to order their Batman. It's kind of like you took a few steps back. There's a couple positives, with Lunar, better shipping, customer service. I mean, clearly they're still around and growing rapidly. But what was that dip
Their customer
like?
service sucks. Oh my God, it's terrible. And their shipping right now is terrible as well. I'm just throwing that out there. Lunar has absolutely gone down since,
for you guys, it's been pretty bad.
So bad. Since Image went to Lunar 6 months ago, however many months ago.
You've been having difficulties, it sounds like.
Massive.
Okay,
like Lunar is definitely,
they're taking on a lot, it sounds like.
Well, they're taking on a lot, but I think, they're biting off more than they can chew, and they definitely aren't doing what needs to be done to actually pick up the slack. Anyway, when DC left Diamond for Lunar, we still had Previews Pullbox doing this thing where you could order Batman books, but they wouldn't go to us. They would actually go to an area that was basically unfindable on the Diamond website, and it would be orders ext, external, little like parentheses there. Someone would say, oh no, I turned in an order for DC and I ordered this and this and this and this. And I'm like, I don't see it. It didn't pop up. We can't get this book from Diamond. I'm sorry. And they're like, well, I keep ordering them. Why aren't you getting them for me? And then I finally one day ended up finding this ext tab and going, oh my God, Mike West has absolutely been ordering this book for the last 6 months. I never saw it because it was never printed. It was never shown. It was never on a pick list. And there was no way for us to order it because Diamond had been keeping it in like a list part. And they, even when I called them and asked my, we don't have reps anymore, but when I talked to the person on the phone about it, they said, oh, as a courtesy to customers, we're going to continue to list DC Comics on our Previews Pullbox website so people can know what's coming out. And I'm like, but that's a disservice to shops because we're unaware of the fact that those comics are being ordered.
Were they being distributed by Diamond still?
Nope.
So it's just like, hey, we'll take the order so you have the orders.
And it wasn't going anywhere.
But it wasn't going anywhere, and it didn't do anything. You had to then, I'm assuming, take those orders.
I would have to still
go to Lunar?
find them and move them over to Lunar manually.
Oh my, so it was just like, hey, this is kind of like a little service thing because we have it here.
But we had customers that were mad about the fact that we weren't getting them these books. And I'm like, you're not ordering it in a manner that we can get them to you. Write it down, send us an email, go back to the old school.
Does that still happen to this day where you can just like shop DC titles on Lunar? So
there is still a hidden ext tab on the Diamond website that things can go there.
So for the people that aren't using the older way, that was, seemingly just based off of trying to leave you some convenience to keep track of orders. For those people who have to reach out and order through Lunar Batman, that process, what do you think of what kind of hit do you think that took? As it pertains to your numbers month over month?
50% immediately. Immediately, we lost half of our BAT subscribers. Immediately, no joke. Like, we went from 75, 80 people down to 40.
Yeah, without
very quickly.
I always said that too. Like without a system in place to make it really easy for the customers to put an order in for books that they want so that the store has an easy process. So they're not living on their computer day to day, considering that most of this is a cost leader for them.
Mhm.
You know, like I think that's one of the worst parts of the comic industry and isn't talked about enough. It's like you got to make the ordering process as seamless as possible. And then once that's taken care of, then you can complain about the story or the artwork decisions or, you know, how many variants are coming out or what incentives they're going to do. Like if you can't even show the people how to order it, then what are we actually complaining about? That's the biggest hurdle.
Right. Well, I mean, the 20% number we were talking about, 20% profit. If you are ordering $2,000 worth of new comics a week, which at $4 a piece is 500 comics, right? That's not that many comics per week. That's $8,000 worth of money coming in every single month. And if you're doing 20% profit, that's $1,600 profit. That's half of my rent. So if you're only selling new comics, you're barely making half of rent, and it doesn't cover labor, doesn't cover bags, boards, doesn't cover utilities, doesn't cover internet.
Doesn't even consider damages. And then that whole process, which we know is notoriously difficult.
You also have between 5 and 8% of your entire run damaged.
Right.
Right. So you're already just in the hole and losing money the entire time. And people are like, well, I'm just going to send you an email, and then I'll send you another email, and then I'm going to write a note, and I'm going to give you a post-it note, and I'm going to do this thing. And it's like, yeah, keep in mind, at one point, I had 350 customers I was doing this for, and trying to keep up with every single one and every single change and every single email.
It's like your job now.
And that's it. And all I'm doing is 50 to 60 hours a week of clerical work to try and make sure that everyone's new comics are happening.
Because there's no just easy system
for
to
no money.
Order comics and have them arrive to you in a way that a customer would actually want to own it in physical form.
The instant we had 2 big distributors to deal with, and now Penguin comes into the thing and it's a 3rd distributor. Now we're looking at more distributors are trying to happen. Oh my God, it's a nightmare.
So now you're just throwing the towel in. You're going full vintage?
Yeah. Well, and I need to find a better way to describe it to people, because telling people that we're just selling vintage, I had a customer go, oh, vintage comics are too expensive. I don't want to buy vintage comics. And it's like, well, that's a misnomer. You know, we have 50-cent books. We have dollar books. We have $3 low-grade vintage stuff.
You have quarter bin and dollar books of stuff that came out last year.
Right. Like we have a bunch of books. So it's more of not brand new, but still have books from, you know, the last 6 months. They're still on the shop floor.
I won't call the shop out, but it's a shop that that's in Washington State. There's a lot of them, so you won't be able to figure it out. But I was informed that one of my peeps who was there witnessed a new customer enter their shop. And this isn't your shop and nothing that anyone can trace back to.
Yeah.
But a new customer walked in. They said that they had just moved there, and they asked the shop owner, hey, like, how do I go about getting a box? I want to have a shelf. I want to put some orders in. I want to get Batman, Spider-Man, etc. And the shop owner, you can see it in his face that this was not the kind of customer that he wanted, and just straight up declined them. They said, oh, no, sorry, we don't do box customers. You can hit up another one. I have some recommendations for you. And I know you were on their list, and that got me thinking, Russ would have done, probably in a lot nicer way, but would have done the same thing. You would have pointed them to go somewhere else. And now I have 2 different examples within, miles of here that are like, okay, what are people supposed to do? Like shop owners, the LCS are officially starting to turn away customers for new comic books. And a lot of it has to do with the act of having to manage it, just being able to offer it, because there's just so little money to be made and so much work to have to be done to fulfill.
It's difficult because, you and I had the conversation in October, November, early November about stopping new comics, and I had seen the writing on the wall. I knew that things were moving in a direction where it just wasn't making sense for us to do it anymore. It seemed like there was a lot of problems with the industry, and they've become more apparent in the last couple months, what's really been going on under the surface. So we'd already started phasing out customers. By the end of last year we had stopped doing shipping box customers. We no longer had the people that we were shipping across the country. And at one point it was over 100 boxes. So we got rid of all of them, and I helped tell people, hey, you should order from here. You should order from here. A lot of the people on the East Coast, I was saying, Midtown, you should order there. They've got good stuff. The people on the West Coast, I was recommending Things from Another World based out of Oregon. Well, Things from Another World, just a couple months ago, they stopped having boxes. Like one of the largest distributors, shops, actually.
But I mean, they are distributors, essentially.
Right. Then they were distributing, and they just stopped selling stuff like that. So
we've heard like rumors that it's like upwards of I remember like in 7 years, we've seen stats. Like, what was it? 3,000 or so LCSs were supposedly in existence.
3,000 comic shops that were active new comic shops. And before pandemic, I think that was kind of an accurate number. And then after pandemic, we were hearing, between 2,200 and 2,500. There was a comic book that recently came out. I read an article about it on Bleeding Cool. It's like a mystery comic where you have to figure out, the online, there's these hacker code things to figure out the codes. It's an interactive story. And they were talking about how many shops there were, and they specifically mentioned a number, and it was just over 1,400 shops.
Holy smokes.
Out of the
Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah.
I would believe it. I mean, just
really
out here, it seems like every month we're hearing, oh, this person just went out of business. This shop's closing down.
Well, and the farther part of that article was that it talked about how, out of the 1,400 new shops, here are the 533 that were brave enough to order this book. And I looked at the list of the people who are in Washington State, and I'm friends with 7 of them, and I personally know 14 of the shops. And it's one of those that it's like, oh my God, it's not like out of the, third of the people on this list, only 500 of the 1,400 or whatever. No. This is actively a lot of people. I think that's an accurate number.
So I started selling new comics, like weekly comics over on Whatnot. But that's just because I'm going into Whatnot streams with exclusives and vintage, and I wanted to be able to offer things like Mark Spears or Peach Momoko covers. So I have my account set up through Lunar and Penguin and was dealing with Diamond. So I got like firsthand experience over this last year of just like how poor shipping could be through these distributors rather. We also have a different model where it's like, hey, I'm only ordering enough that I think I can sell because I have an audience there that joins me weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm going to likely, provide these comics to them because they're joining me weekly, kind of like an LCS would with, customers that come in on a regular basis.
Sure.
But being able to take risks on titles is just not something that I do. I'm going to order Mark Spears Monsters, of course, and maybe one of the 10 Peach Momoko covers that comes out in a month. But being able to just go, we're going to order 5 of this, 5 of this, 5 of this, 10 of this, 20 of this, 20 of this, or rather even take those risks to get those incentives. It's like I can't even do on Whatnot, let alone a brick and mortar in Mill Creek, Washington. So I want to keep up with this story. I want to see if this changes because it was just alarming to see that in 7 years, it appears that things have gotten tremendously worse.
The thing that's frustrating, I mean, there's a lot of this that's frustrating. My inability to serve the customer is the most frustrating thing because the business motto of Mill Geek Comics has always been creating customers for life, one customer at a time. That has always been my idea. I want to be a comic book concierge. You contact me and say, hey, I'm looking for the first appearance of Red Tornado. And I'll go, dude, I got one. I'm going to come over to your house. I'm going to bring it to you. Like that was literally how I started out before I had a brick and mortar. And even now with the shop, if I have someone who really likes ROM comics, I'm going to set aside the ROM comics for them. Right? This is what I want to do. My inability to help the customers now, it's taken out of my hands. This is not me being inept. This is not me failing to do my job. I no longer have control over it. So if you're able to cater to any type of these customers, do it. I'm glad you're able to cater to the type of customers that you have over on Whatnot, because the customers that you have, the people that want these, they are very clearly the customers that want to buy the covers. They're buying it because it's the art, and that's awesome. I know that there is a huge amount of people that really like Mark Spears covers, really like Peach Momoko covers, like Art Germ covers, and they're going to buy the book because they like that. The problem is most of the people who have been my diehard box customers for a really long time, they're the readers. and the readers are getting left out in the cold. And I've actually had multiple of these people say, you know what? I have subscribed to Amazing Spider-Man since 1980, and I've followed every single one of these writers. I no longer want to get the monthly Amazing Spider-Man. I'm just going to get the graphic novels, and Penguin Random House is fine because they're the ones that sell the graphic novels as well. But losing the single issues of the floppies because there are fewer stores to sell the single issues in, that's going to be the biggest detriment. It's great that people can get variant covers. It's great that people can go to con and get all of these different cool artists and all of these exclusives. I know there's a market for it, but the readers are the ones that I think are going to suffer the most.
What do you guys think about this? Should Russ be a bit more cheerful? Do you think he screwed up? Let him know in the comment section below. Sound off. But also, if you support an LCS, why don't you put their name in the comment section in the state that they're based out, the city rather that they're based out of? We always got to show love, especially with the numbers being as down as they are. If you want to support the show, you can join the mystery mail call, comictom.com. We mentioned an announcement over the last trending video that the July box will be completely taken over by Bad Idea Comics, and the one per box is a Planet Death #1 ASM McFarlane homage by Ryan Benjamin. Going out to every single member. Join the community. I have some viewer comments I wanted to hit you with, Russ. This is pertaining to the Todd McFarlane video, the interview clip that I dropped where he talked about Spider-Man 299 being, to him, the first full appearance of Venom.
Sure.
This is by GTO Burfest. Always thought and still agree with Mr. McFarlane that ASM 299 is first full appearance of Venom. What do you think about that statement? Because I've always thought ASM 299 was the first full appearance. To me, as a collector, as someone who's owned the book many times. I will even throw this on there because a lot of our viewers know, Hellboy is my guy. That was my first big, I'm going to collect every issue. I'm going to own every appearance, all the, the true first appearances. And if you got Big Red in issue 21 of XMen, but the last page of XMen issue 20 has the full reveal of Big Red, I would look at issue 20 as the first full appearance, but I'd love to know your thoughts.
I don't know. I mean, this is one of those that as a monthly reader and a person that bought every single issue off the rack at $1 or whatever the cover price was for that one, it was a contiguous story. I wasn't concerned about when did he first show up. I was just excited that there was something happening. Cool new guy. Some people don't care about first appearances, and I know that it's really important and the value. And
what do you think? Is it first appearance in 299, or you're just nah, dude?
I don't
300.
care. Truthfully, I don't care.
What would you tell a customer? I walked in. I'm saying, Russ, I want to freaking own this book, and I'm going to task you to go and find it for me, like you just said you love to do since the early days. What do you tell that person?
I'd get you 300.
You give me 300.
That's the book.
Okay, there it is. There's the answer there. Yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle, dude. This is why it's such a contentious argument in the community. Not even an LCS owner can just quickly say it.
Because I don't, right. It's a difficult thing because someone's going to want to fight you over it. And you're like, no, it's 300 because it says it on the CGC label. It's the one that we've all been accepting for quite some time,
See, I find it curious that McFarlane points out in the interviews I've done with him that it wasn't always like that. That 299 was the leader. It was the market leader. It was more expensive. It was in the guide, but it wasn't until a third party kind of made the decision for everybody and said, okay, no, 300. But that's also very similar to the Hulk 180, 181 experience. Let us know what you think in the comment section below because we don't always agree on this show. I personally would still say ASM 300 is the first full appearance of Venom, but that's not because it's my opinion. That's just what I think the most common view of that book is now in 2025.
Right. Well, the first series of the Marvel cards said that it's Wolverine 180 is the first, or Hulk 180 is the first appearance of Wolverine. So even, Marvel was telling people that it was 180. So again, opinions change.
Charles Johnson 3287 said, absolute Batman. Fantastic to see it in the top spot. I'm not expecting much out of the Superman movie, but in Gunn we trust. There's a couple things in here. One, in Gunn we trust. Is that a statement that you share? I do think that he's proven, James Gunn himself, that he can take on any movie, superhero specifically, and make it great. Because I know we have a very similar opinion about Peacemaker, which I think at first glance was, is that going to work? And then clearly it did. In James Gunn, do you trust? Are you concerned about the Superman movie?
Because I hate it when you ask these questions just because, you know,
I'll throw this out there. Jeff firmly is convinced that Fantastic Four is going to be shit. He does not think Galactus is going to look cool. He thinks Shia LaBeouf Silver Surfer doesn't like. He thinks
if Galactus is even in the movie, that's another conversation. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, apparently in the early scripting days, the writer who had Galactus as the main big bad, the studio's like, that's great. Let's actually restrict him to just like one scene. And by the end, they were like, he's just going to be post-credit scene. Clearly, they went another direction, but that doesn't make me feel that confident. But what do you think about James Gunn on the other end?
I think if James Gunn is actually allowed to do what he needs to do, and he is actually the one in charge of it, because he's working on a ton of projects right now, and he's working on building a universe, and he's working on all of these other things, and they keep throwing out names of something else that James Gunn is working on. That's cool, but is it going to be him actually working on it, or is he going to kind of do the Kevin Feige thing where he's just going to step up and go, well, I'm in charge of all of this.
That's a good point.
And other people may be taking on these roles. Is it too much? We see this with writers all the time. You remember when Cullen Bunn wrote every single comic and then all of a sudden not writing anymore? Still writing, but not doing 17 titles at a time.
Yeah, it's like the Joe Hill. Like, yeah, Joe Hill's freaking great.
Yep.
But then you see the umbrella that he formed with all these other creators, and then it's like some were hit and miss.
Right. Absolutely. And that's kind of my thing with James Gunn. If it is one thing that I know he's working on and he's 100% in on doing Peacemaker season 2, great. I think it's going to be fantastic. But
what about Superman? You think it's going to be good?
I don't like Superman.
Just straight up?
Full stop. I will watch it. My Superman was absolutely the Christopher Reeves back in the early 80s, you know, and I watched the heck out of that when I was younger. I just don't like Superman as a character. So I will watch the movie. I will try and keep as much of an open mind as possible, but I've always been much more of a Batman fan.
More excited about Fantastic Four is what I'm hearing.
I am way more excited about Fantastic Four.
All right. Well, Charles also mentioned about being hyped that Absolute Batman was like leading the list. And clearly this is like one of the biggest comics coming out right now. Issue 9 debuted this week. And the first thing that you said actually was an emoji. It was like a crying emoji, or like, no, it was a puke emoji. It was a puke emoji because I knew that you were not looking forward to issue number 9 because you do not like how they designed Bane.
I don't like it.
Abomination.
But a lot of people, I mean, the people who were buying at my shop, they dropped off precipitously.
Dude, Vengeance of Bane at number 3 this week. Like, people are buying the first appearance because of this book.
I had 25 people who bought Absolute Batman number 1, and I had at least 15 people who wanted a second print because they wanted to get this. And I had probably 20 people who got number 2, 15 people who got number 3. There are 7 people who got this last week's issue. People are dropping off Absolute left and right. And that's nothing against the writing, but I can tell you that the customers are speaking with their wallets.
Why don't you like the design? And do you think of Tom Hardy's voice every time you see Bane?
Oh my God, I do. Oh,
dude, that sounds like Yoda, dude.
Awful.
You sound like Yoda.
Oh man,
you need to work on your Bane.
No, that's what it sounds like in my head.
All right.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan not doing automated dialogue replacement is such a bad decision. Like, really, there should be. Anyway, Bane sounds terrible, and this one looks terrible. He's disproportionate, and I don't like it.
Did you guys read Absolute Batman 9? I'm all in. I don't care. I love everything that's happening. I loved Mr. Freeze. He's creepy, crawly dude. He's super strong and looks super sinister. And Bane is just like coming out the gate so strong, just taking Batman. I don't want to get into it. You guys hopefully stay tuned. Because like this podcast is back. We're going to keep it going. Do me a favor, Russ. Will you pull up What If number 105? We're talking first appearance of Spider-Girl here. I have a comment I want to read you. And this is in real time. I have not shown, and I think I'm going to keep this going, not telling the guests on the show.
Am I pulling this up on Key Collector?
No, just put this picture. You can Google it.
Okay,
I just want you to get a picture of first appearance of Spider-Girl.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let me know when you have it on the screen. I'm going to read you this by Mark Faust. This is why you got to comment on our videos because you never know when I'm going to pull it, okay? Let me know when you're ready here because we have a lot of random news about Spider-Girl, you know. Will she be in Brand New Day? Will she be the first of many Spider-Verse characters to enter live action and save the Sony-verse? We'll have to wait and see. But we're talking about What If 105 right now. And there are some covers, and I was chatting about this with Jeff, and I look forward to actually getting him on the mic with you at some point, Russ, where he had like started off one of those conversations about like having a really good look at a cover that he's seen multiple times, but then for the first time again, where you just kind of like really take it in and you don't realize that you really like it or you really don't like it.
Or the Punisher has 6 fingers.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like we had those moments, like authentically, he's like, we should make a list of those because he just started spitting fire about a lot of them. I had some too. Well, Mark left this comment, and I want you to look at this cover and I want to gauge your reaction. I just cannot stand this cover. The way that right leg comes out like it's not attached to her body. And when you look at this cover, that right leg placement is a little weird. It's like kind of coming out of her thigh, isn't it?
Yeah, she has a very dislocated hip, maybe.
Right? All right, so
dislocated hip.
It's a little weird, right? Have you ever noticed that on this cover? Because I have not.
I've looked at this cover 100 times and apparently never noticed that Bill Sienkiewicz worked on it.
That's another thing I did not know.
That's like, what? That's weird.
Okay.
He worked on this book, but yes, the dislocated thigh is odd.
Then last but not least, the last trending video, we covered X-Men 129, and there's a handful of comments that I could be reading right now, but the most commented thing on that video was talking about how undervalued and underpriced X-Men 129 currently is. And that's something that I want to point out to the community, that when you're watching our videos or we're covering trending books, it obviously doesn't mean go and run to buy them. If we suggest that we think it's a good price, maybe consider it. If you're thinking about joining the spec train, then hey, you're making some risks. We're here to like guide you for some, hopefully some smart purchases. But sometimes we'll cover a book and we're like, we really like this book. It seems undervalued. And then the community lights up in the chat. You're helping your fellow comic fan members when you do that, because it also communicates that there's people that agree. And when you're looking at a book as like notable as this key is, I think it's clear that that book is primed to be purchased right now. What do you think?
Yes. And I think there are keys in the Uncanny X-Men run that are absolutely undervalued, 129 being one of them. The fact that we had such a focus on 130 with Dazzler, but people completely and totally overlooking 131, the White Queen stuff. I have been jumping up and down for at least 5 years on this show, talking about how I think X-Men 94 is so undervalued.
Yeah, I've been feeling that too for a long time.
That book in and of itself, because if you're looking at its third Wolverine, second appearance of the whole team.
That's when everything really starts.
Right?
I personally like oversized
Giant
issues.
size is big.
It's big, but it's like oversized issues to me almost are not part of the run. I know it is, like it's an annual, right? But it's not.
No, it's a giant size.
There is an X-Men annual. It's not the same.
Don't count. Like they count, but they don't count, right?
But it is the first. But that's like going, oh, what's the first appearance of White Tiger? Well, you got to go to that magazine, or do you?
Yeah, and the magazines are tougher. But really, I think that's one of the reasons why 94 is so undervalued. But having the whole team, having so many first appearances, like 129 is just a great book, and you can get them in really nice grade for not a whole lot of money. It kind of kills me because I got a collection in recently and I'm looking through these books. They're all VF or better, and they're pricing out at like 35, 40 bucks. You're like, how is this 35 or 40 bucks?
This may be the time to really like look at mutant keys seriously. And that's something that Jeff's been talking about in the Hot 10. I look forward to getting him here too, because we can start doing some collaborative videos where we can kind of source from each videos, because the Hot 10 is so back issue, like blue chip heavy, where the trending is more current and stuff's kind of in and out of the list. And we've even started to see some crossover between the lists of books that trend really high that land on the Hot 10, but also books that start to sell for a little too much and then start trending on the trending 10, meaning that the prices are volatile. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. And then of course, we'll see you soon with another podcast. That was Bags and Boards number 78, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
As always,
Geek responsibly.
enough said.